The Seattle Seahawks are walking into this playoff night like a storm nobody expected. And the scary part is that even the San Francisco 49ers are not completely sure what is coming. This is not the same Seattle group people thought would be happy just to show up and smile for the cameras. This is a team that spent all year climbing to the top of the conference, earned their shot at home, and now has a chance to push a long-time rival to the edge in front of a crowd that can shake the building. The mystery is simple and heavy at the same time. Has the rest of the league really caught up to how dangerous this version of Seattle is? Or are they about to find out the hard way in front of millions of eyes? On offense, the Seahawks are nothing like the soft picture people had in their heads a few months ago. With Sam Darnold running the show, this attack has turned into a steady punch that never really lets you breathe. Start to feel those hits in the fourth quarter. Then, when bodies are tired and the crowd is roaring, Jackson Smith-Njigba carving up space inside, Cooper Kupp winning with timing and craft, and tight ends like A.J. Barner and Elijah Arroyo sneaking into seams that used to be safe zones. The weird thing for the 49ers is this. They have seen parts of this before, but never all of it in one game. And they know one wrong read on any snap can flip the entire night. The part that really changes the mood, though, sits on the other side of the ball, where Mike Macdonald has built a defense that plays like it enjoys ending drives. Young stars such as Devin Witherspoon, Byron Murphy, and Nick Emenwari fly around behind a front that throws bodies like DeMarcus Lawrence, Leonard Williams, and Jarran Reed straight into the chest of offenses. And we just watched them squeeze Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey until almost nothing came. Easy. Add in the shadow of Fred Warner on the other sideline, whether he plays or not, and you can feel how big and strange this stage really is for everyone involved. The real question now is simple. When the lights hit and the noise rises, does this young Seattle roster stay calm and hunt, or does the weight of the moment finally start to show? But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Seahawks and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. For all the noise about matchups and schemes, there's one simple fear people keep whispering about the Seattle Seahawks. Can a roster this young really carry the weight of a season on one playoff night without cracking? This team walked through the regular season, leaning on fresh legs and new faces. But now, every snap feels heavier, every mistake feels louder, and everyone watching wants to see if these kids flinch or smile. The twist that nobody really talks about is that some of the calmest players in this locker room are the ones who have barely spent any time in the league, and they are looking at this stage like something they have been chasing for years, not something to hide from. Look at the core pieces that define this youth movement, and you start to see why. The mood inside that building feels different from the outside talk. Devin Witherspoon plays with the same edge he had in college, when he was flying into big-time games without a second thought. Byron Murphy already knows what playoff pressure feels like from his time at Texas. Jackson Smith-Njigba turned a bowl game into his own personal show back in school and did it when the lights were blinding. A.J. Barner came out of a Michigan run where every week felt like season on the line. Linemen like Gray Zabel and Jalen Sundell are used to deep tournament pushes where one bad quarter ends your year. They are not walking into this with wide eyes. They are walking and thinking this is just the next level of the same test they have been passing since they were teenagers. The part that settles everything is how those young players are wrapped in veteran voices that have already lived the highs and scars of January football. DeMarcus Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Ernest Jones, Julian Love, Cooper Kupp, Jarran Reed, and others have all felt seasons end and seasons extend in games just like this, and they are the ones reminding everyone to stick to the same routine, the same work, while quietly letting the urgency burn underneath. That mix of fresh energy and old experience can be a weapon if the right people are actually on the field, not standing in hoodies on the sideline, which is why the next piece of this story is so important, because the real test of how scary this team can be starts with one question. Who did the bye week actually give back to Seattle, And how much did that change the ceiling for Saturday night? The quiet truth that can decide this whole playoff run is simple. Seattle did not just rest. During the bye week, they rebuilt parts of their lineup that were missing when the regular season ended. Bodies that were stuck in the training room are now back in the huddle. And that is the kind of shift that does not show up on a graphic until the game has already started. When you look at this roster now and compare it to the group that walked off the field in Week 18, you are not seeing the same version at all. You are seeing a team that used that extra time to get stronger in the exact spots that matter most in January. On offense, the ripple starts with Charles Cross taking his spot again at left tackle and locking down the blind side for Sam Darnold, turning protection from a concern into a strength, right when the snaps mean the most. In the secondary, Kobe Bryant returning to full work gives Mike McDonald another trusted piece who knows the system and can handle movement in the slot when motion and misdirection are flying. Behind them, the tight end room and special teams units quietly feel different with Elijah Arroyo and Chaz Surratt back on the practice field. One adding another vertical threat in the middle of the field, the other bringing back a core special teamer who helps win the hidden parts of the game. How fresh Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet can stay over 4 tough quarters. None of that is loud, but all of it is real. The coaches use that same window to go back into the lab with Mike McDonald, Clint Kubiak, and Aiden Dirty studying their own tape as hard as any opponent, cutting out tells, tightening calls, and building answers that fit this healthier roster instead of the patched-up depth chart they were managing before. That combination of fresh legs and sharpened plans makes Seattle feel a little more complete than the last time we saw them. And it also changes how they look across the line at San Francisco. Because while the Seahawks were getting players back, the 49ers were fighting through their own injuries on a shorter clock. And that leads to the next piece of this story. Who is really available for them on Saturday night? And how different does this matchup become if names like Trent Williams, Dee Winters, Jake Tongs, and maybe even Fred Warner are in uniform? The San Francisco 49ers walk into this showdown looking like the same brand name everyone knows, but their injury sheet tells a story that feels a lot more fragile. On paper, you still see stars, big names, past playoff runs, and it is easy to think everything is normal. Then you look closer and realize key pieces have been fighting their bodies for weeks, some just coming back, some trying to rush back, and some gone for the season. That gap between what the logo suggests and what the lineup really is might be the space where this entire game flips. Up front, it starts with Trent Williams, the anchor of that line, still managing a hamstring issue while trying to clear the way for Christian McCaffrey and protect Brock Purdy on the blind side. When Trent Williams is on the field, the 49ers love running left, and Christian McCaffrey trusts that lane. But any limit on his movement changes those calls just a little. In the passing game, Ricky Pearsall is pushing back from a knee problem after missing time, trying to rejoin a receiver group where players like Demarcus Robinson and Jawan Jennings had to carry bigger loads. At tight end, losing George Kittle to an Achilles tear forced Jake Tonges into the main role, and Seahawks fans remember he already hurt them once earlier in the year. Even at linebacker, where the 49ers are usually loaded, Dee Winters has been dealing with his own health question while stepping in next to Eric Kendricks. None of these names are excuses, but every one of them changes how Kyle Shanahan has to call this game. Then there is the shadow that hangs over all of it. The name every Seahawks fan keeps checking their phone for, even if the answer seems obvious. Fred Warner, the leader who suffered a brutal ankle injury, somehow has his practice window open and now sits on the edge between street clothes and shoulder pads. If he cannot play, this 49ers defense leans even harder on players who are already stretching themselves. If he somehow does dress, even in a limited way, the entire middle of the field feels different for Sam Darnold, A.J. Barner, and Elijah Arroyo. That is why the next part of this story has to zoom in on him, because Fred Warner is the one player who can change the feel of this matchup without even taking a snap. If there is one player who can tilt the whole mood of this playoff night just by putting on his pads, it is Fred Warner. Opposing coaches do not build normal game plans when they even think he might be on the field. They build backup plans on top of backup plans because he erases calls that usually feel safe. When you watch the 49ers defense at its best, you see the same pattern over and over. Motion snaps, the ball is snapped, and somehow Fred Warner is already moving full speed to the real spot before most players even finish their read. That is the part that keeps the Seahawks staff honest all week. They cannot assume he will sit. They have to prepare for the nightmare version where number 54 is standing in the middle of the field again. On a chalkboard, Fred Warner changed everything for San Francisco because he does every job at a higher level than most linebackers can dream of. He can walk up and meet Kenneth Walker or Zach Charbonnet in the hole and stop a run before it ever bends. He can turn and run with a tight end like A.J. Barner or Elijah Arroyo down the seam, closing passing lanes that quarterbacks like Sam Darnold usually trust without thinking. Even when he is not making the tackle, he is pointing, shouting, lining up Eric Kendricks and the rest of that front seven so that everyone is seeing the same picture. Take him off the grass, and the scheme is still strong, but the comfort and speed are just not the same. The twist for Seattle is that this story cuts two ways. If Fred Warner is not ready to go, that is a huge break for Sam Darnold and Clint Kubiak, but it also removes the clearest test of how far this offense has come. If he does suit up, even for limited snaps, the Seahawks have to carry an aggressive mindset without drifting into fear, attacking space when it is there instead of staring at number 54 and freezing. Either way, his name forces Seattle to sharpen every detail, from protections to route depth to how patient they stay with the ground game. And that is where this matchup really starts to heat up, because now the focus swings straight to that side of the ball, to Clint Kubiak against the 49ers defense, and to whether this Seahawks offense can play smart, violent football without giving Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, and the other sideline the free gift of a single careless mistake. The Seattle Seahawks offense is walking into a night where every snap feels like a choice between control and disaster, and the San Francisco 49ers defense is built to punish even the smallest crack. This is not some clean practice test for Sam Darnold and his guys. One slow read, one throw left inside, one ball hanging a heartbeat too long, and you are suddenly giving Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey a short field with the whole stadium holding its breath. That is the tension under everything Clint Kubiak does. He is calling plays to attack, to lean on his talent, but he knows one greedy decision can flip a calm drive into the clip everyone talks about when this game is over. The plan that scares opponents starts with bodies and patience, not fireworks. You hand the ball to Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet again and again until pads are tired and those 4-yard runs start turning into 8, while Charles Cross keeps Sam Darnold clean long enough for the timing game to live. Jackson Smith and Jigba shaking loose underneath. Cooper Kupp finding soft spots that linebackers hate to cover. Tight ends, A.J. Barner and Elijah Arroyo bending up the seam where if Fred Warner is not in the middle, the windows grow just a little wider on each snap for Sam Darnold to trust. Across from them, Eric Kendricks, D. Winters, and the rest of that front know they cannot let those windows exist for long, so the 49ers will gamble, fire linebackers, spin coverage, anything to turn rhythm into panic. That is where this matchup becomes a real chess fight instead of just talent on talent. The painful truth is that Seattle does not need a perfect night on offense to win this game, but they do need a clean one. If Sam Darnold protects the ball, if Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet keep the clock moving forward instead of putting it on the ground, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp, A.J. Barner, and Elijah Arroyo finish drives in the red zone instead of walking off for a kick After 3 good plays and 1 bad choice, the 49ers are forced to play this game the hard way for 4 full quarters. No gifts, no sudden swings, just long fields in front of Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey every single time they touch the ball. And that is exactly where this story turns next, because once the Seahawks offense either protects or spills that advantage, everything shifts onto Mike Macdonald and his defense to decide whether they can squeeze this San Francisco attack the way they just did not long ago. Seattle's defense has already shown it can drag Brock Purdy into an ugly game, and under Mike Macdonald, it is built to squeeze the rhythm out of the 49ers offense until throws are forced and reads feel crowded. The plan is simple but brutal. Big bodies like DeMarcus Lawrence, Leonard Williams, and Jarran Reed crush the pocket while staying disciplined in their rush lanes, and the back end with Devin Witherspoon, Byron Murphy II, Nick Emenwari, and Julian Love rallies to every catch so short, throws to Christian McCaffrey, Demarcus Robinson, Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and Jake Tonges never explode into free yards. If that coverage unit stays patient, reads Brock Purdy right, and turns tight windows into tips and interceptions, 1 turnover in front of a loud Lumen Field crowd can flip control of the whole night, especially if Christian McCaffrey is kept from taking over. And that is how the scoreboard can start sliding Seattle's way. Either way, this playoff night becomes a defining line in their story, deciding whether we are seeing the birth of a true contender or the painful lesson that helps create one.